What's going on, guys? I am back from vacation and ready to do another discography ranking, this time talking about Weezer. Weezer, love them or hate them, you can't disagree that they have numerous amazing tracks, numerous terrible tracks, numerous great lyrics, numerous terrible lyrics, numerous great albums, and numerous terrible albums. Yeah, there's a theme with Weezer. We're going to talk about that here, but let's hop in to the discography ranking. Teal is a studio album by them, but it's just covers, so I'm not including Teal on this list. This will just be all their regular studio albums, we'll call them. Coming in at number 14 is Ratitude. I will stand by that Ratitude is one of the worst albums I've ever had the displeasure of hearing. When I first put this on, which was a few weeks ago, it was just cringy lyric after cringy lyric. The problem with this is this came out in 2009, and the lead singer, Rivers Cuomo, was trying to, fit in with what was popular at the time, and he did that quite a bit on albums in the past, but Ratitude is the worst case of it. My god, it's bad when Weezer is making a collab song called Can't Stop Partying with Lil Wayne. But yeah, this album, man, look at the cover. No cover like that can unironically be good. So yeah, Ratitude, in my opinion, is their worst album. Coming in at number 13 is Pacific Daydream. I think Pacific Daydream gets a lot more hate because it came after a run of multiple good albums which felt like a Weezer comeback for a while. And then Pacific Daydream drops and it just didn't sound like a Weezer album. It sounded like if Weezer collabed with Imagine Dragons, which is definitely not a good thing. I wouldn't say the songs are that bad. I think the problem with it is this just isn't Weezer's sound. If any other band made this, it would probably just be blown over, whatever, it's just whatever music, but Weezer has so much more potential than this. They could have made a better album than this. So I think Pacific Daydream is just a disappointment and nothing more than that. Coming in at number 12, probably the most controversial pick on this list, I put Red. Listen, guys, I really hate Red. I don't know why, but I just don't like it. I have the same problem with Ratitude that I do with Red, where multiple of the lyrics are super cringy. I know there's a couple songs on Red where they're supposed to be like that, like Pork and Beans, but I have to be honest, I don't even like Pork and Beans. I find the riff extremely annoying. I just do not care for it at all. And that's the case with pretty much every other song on here except Angel, and the one that's pretty much the only song I come back to on Red. So Red is just extremely run-of-the-mill for me, and when there's bad moments on it, it just drags it down even more. So yeah, I don't care for Red at all. Number 11, same situation as Red, we have the Black Album. The only reason I have this higher than the last three albums is strictly because of the song High as a Kite, which is an amazing song. It kind of sounds like what you heard on OK Human, which is definitely a good thing. If there were no electric guitars on that song, it would sound like an OK Human track. But yeah, once again, Black came after Pacific Daydream, I think, and it just sucked that after this great run of good albums, Weezer just fell flat again for the second time in a row. So yeah, Black's just not that great either. Number 10, Make Believe. Probably an album you were expecting to see earlier on this list. I know multiple Weezer fans put Make Believe at the bottom of the bottom, worst of the worst. In my opinion, I don't think Make Believe is that bad. It's definitely not near as good as their best albums, but I think it's better than their worst albums. So yeah, I never really understood the hate because it's not that bad. There's a really great song called Perfect Situation on there. Yes, Beverly Hills kinda sucks because after hearing in the Garage on the Blue album, Beverly Hills just feels like a complete betrayal to the Weezer fan base. And I understand this album sounds a little bit too clean to be Weezer, but it was the same sort of thing on Green, and that album got pretty positive reception. So I honestly kind of enjoy Make Believe. I think I don't want to say underrated, but definitely overhated. I think there's some really good guitar playing and solos on there. It's a little bit clean, but that doesn't bother me. So, number 9, their latest record, Van Weezer. What they were going for on here is they were trying to sound like take their influences of hard rock from like the 80s and translate them to this. I wouldn't say it panned over perfectly. I think they did an okay job, but not a great job. There's a couple highlights on here, especially all of the good ones. I love that song. I think the front half is pretty damn good, but the back half, it kind of falls flat, and there's one or two extremely questionable lyrics on there. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I would say Van Weezer's not bad, not great either, right in the middle. Number 8 is Hurley, and this is when we start getting into albums that I think are actually pretty good, too great, too amazing. Hurley, in my opinion, is the album that started Weezer's comeback in 2010. I don't think Hurley's an amazing album or anything like that, but I do think there's some really great moments on this, especially the song Hang On, which sounds like it could have been on maybe Green or Everything Will Be Alright in the End, even though that came after this record. But yeah, I think Hurley would have got a lot more recognition if there was more media coverage of it, and if they picked a different album cover, because my god, it's almost as bad as the Ratitude cover. Like, how could you look at that and be like, yes, there will be a couple great tracks on this album? Like, it's just such a lazy cover, but the songs aren't lazy, so yeah, decent album. Number 7, I put Maladroit. This is kind of a cult classic Weezer album. Definitely not one of my favorites, but I definitely respect it for what it is. And what it is to me, it sounds like a second helping of Pinkerton. Definitely not as good as Pinkerton, but it sounds like B-sides that were like left behind off the album and turned into a new album. Yeah, this album seems to be forgotten quite a bit too, outside the cult Weezer fanbase that I was talking about. And I'm not really sure why, because, I mean, I wasn't alive at the time of the release, so I don't know how good the marketing for it was or anything. But yeah, a lot of great songs on here. I wouldn't say there's a single bad song on here. It's just a really solid album. If you like Pinkerton, you'll definitely like Maladroit. So yeah, check out Maladroit if you haven't. Underrated record. Number 6, I put Green. Green is a very good album. It's a pretty good album. The thing is, it sounded a lot cleaner, a lot less distorted than Blue and Pinkerton. So you got your hits like Island in the Sun that kind of blew up, and they did sound a little bit clean. Every song on Green, I would say, is good. It's just they all followed the exact same formula where it's like verse, chorus, guitar solo, or something like that. So it does get a little bit repetitive, but I don't really see that as an issue with Green because the runtime is a little under a half hour. So I would put Green in the same boat as Maladroit, where yes, it's a pretty good album, but there are better albums in the discog. Number 5, I put Everything Will Be Alright in the End, which in my opinion has some of Weezer's best songs ever. This is the album that I would say put Weezer back on their feet officially. There's amazing songs on here like Foolish Father, which damn near made me cry. I never thought a Weezer song could even get close to making me cry, but I was wrong. The Future Scope trilogy, which only has one song with vocals, but all 3 of them are incredible. The British Are Coming is very good. There's a couple others that I'm probably forgetting of. Da Vinci's a good song. I found it very annoying at first, but definitely grew on me. Eulogy for a Rock Band has Weezer talking about them as a band and how they're trying to cater to the fan base, but they don't know what the fans want. So yeah, and there's a choir on Foolish Father that surprisingly sounded really good. I never would expect a choir to sound good with Weezer, but it really did. So yeah, I love this album. I think it's fantastic. Almost put it a little bit higher on the list, but we'll get into what's coming up next. Number 4 is OK Human. This is an album that grew on me over the past year. I did enjoy it at first, but I didn't love it that much, but now it's like one of my favorite Weezer albums, clearly. The lead single, All My Favorite Songs, has extremely dumbed down, like kind of boring, corny lyrics, but the instrumentation, the Baroque instrumentation on it, completely saves it. If there was better songwriting, it would easily be one of the best songs of the year, but there's better songwriting deeper into the record. Alu Gobi is a fantastic track. Here Comes the Rain, Numbers. Pretty much every song on here almost is fantastic. This has Rivers' best songwriting in years, and not a single electric guitar to be found on this record. I would say this is Weezer's most ambitious record, and it panned out extremely well. One of my favorites of this year for sure, so I give Weezer a lot of props for releasing this. Number 3 is Pinkerton. That's right, Pinkerton will not be in the first or second spot. I'm sorry that I'm not like everybody else, but I don't love Pinkerton as much as most people, but I still love it though. Pinkerton is probably Weezer's saddest album. There's just a certain melancholy to it that makes you feel like you've been left in a winter storm or something. But there's also a lot of funny lines on here. It sort of like balances out humor with sadness in the same way. It's their most experimental record. A lot of the instrumentals are more daring, more abrasive. So many great songs on here like El Scorcho, Across the Sea, Butterfly. You can pretty much say every song on here and it would be fantastic. So yeah, I do love Pinkerton, but it's just not in my top 2. Number 2 is White, which was extremely close to putting it number 1, as it's probably my personal favorite Weezer record, but I don't think it's their best record. Almost every song on here, other than Summer Elaine and Drunk Dory, it's the only one I don't really like. It just makes you want to bop your head. This is the closest Weezer has ever gotten to getting back to their old roots, because this sounds like a second helping of the Blue album. But it has a very beach vibe to it, and you can especially hear that on a song like Girl We Got a Good Thing, which sounds like it could have been a Beach Boys song. But this thing kicks off with, what's the name? California Kids. And that song's so happy. Continues with Wind in Our Sail, which uses keys so well. Something they do very well throughout the rest of the record too. The way it ends with Endless Bummer is one of my favorite Weezer songs ever. It's just so bittersweet. I love singing along to it. Jacked Up is great. Pretty much every song on there is great. Yeah, I love the White Album. It's fantastic. And number 1, we of course have the classic Blue Album. How could you not put the Blue Album at number 1? So many fun songs, and this was a sound that nobody had in the 90s. Weezer came out with a completely new sound, which basically kind of birthed alt-rock. I don't want to say like birthed alt-rock as a genre, but if you think of like 90s alt-rock to now, like most of those bands were influenced by this record right here. Buddy Holly, the Sweater Song, My Name is Jonas, Say It Ain't So, the bass line on Only in Dreams. Everything on this is so fantastic. I love this record. I'll love it for the rest of my life. But that's it. All 14 of Weezer's albums ranked, except for Teal, because what's the point of ranking Teal? I just don't know where I would put it anyway. But yeah, I think that's going to do it here. So welcome back to the channel, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.